The call to probe the Ajaokuta Steel Company over allegations bordering on corruption is on the increase, despite the move by some traditional rulers from Kogi State who are kicking against the probe by the Nigerian Senate. The recent call for a probe was initiated by Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan into the issues of corruption surrounding the abandoned Ajaokuta Steel Company and Itakpe Iron Ore Mining Company. It plans to unravel the mystery behind the payment of $496 million allegedly made to Mr. Pramod Mittal, the chairman of the Global Infrastructure Holdings Limited, by the federal government in September 2022 as settlement over contractual disputes. The Kogi Central Senatorial District is home to these two giants, which have been left to deteriorate after the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari halted construction, citing managerial challenges and corruption as reasons for the suspension. Joining us now is Professor David Esezobor, an engineer and a professor of extractive metallurgy. Professor Esezobor is also a former metallurgical engineer at Ajaokuta Steel Company in Kogi State and a former national chairman, Nigerian Institution of Metallurgical, Mining and Materials Engineers. He currently lectures at the University of Lagos, Akoka. Good morning, Professor Esezobor, and welcome to the morning show.
Good morning. Thank you.
Prof, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Well, other countries are doing very well with iron and steel. Germany, Russia, Japan, South Korea. Nigeria has been on this iron and steel project since 1979. What happened? Why is it that the Ajaokuta Steel investment has not brought any result, any gain for Nigeria? It's been one story after the other. What killed the dream?
Well, I will just say one sentence. It's lack of political and economic will of the government, because the industry is an international industry. You know that. The Ajaokuta is a complex. It's an integrated plant in which you have up to about 20 plants in the mini plants in Ajaokuta as a unit. But the issue actually is there are a lot of confusions, controversies, and conspiracy surrounding Ajaokuta right from the session, when things were actually when the right directions are not taken at the appropriate time. At the beginning, the government set actually for a keystone project for Ajaokuta, but due to pressures from outside, it was turned to a different backward integration, in which you have to complete the last stage before coming down to the primary stage. The turnkey is just from the beginning, from the iron ore, you produce your liquid steel. And that's what has been happening in there are a lot of external conspirators who will not allow that Ajaokuta to stand. But if we have that political and economic will of the government, it will actually come to fulfill.
All right. So, I mean, this is many years in conversation.
Yes.
Right from different administrations. And so I hear you say political will, and I would want to understand the reason why, because it makes economic sense to have the company up and running. We've talked about the potentials in the steel industry. So, I'm sure a number of people are wondering that why is it that successive governments haven't had the political will to do so? Is there something that we're not aware of? And then, despite the fact that each year, at least during this time, there's been money allocated to Ajaokuta Steel Company, and for good reason as well, yet nothing seems to be, and that's probably why, and that's why the Senate is calling for a probe into the spendings and the corruption allegations as to not just the monies allocated to the steel company, but even reconcessioning while it was cancelled, why the same organization was given concession rights again. Can you break it down for us? Why is there a lack of political will in your estimation, despite the obvious gains for Nigeria? And then this issue around corruption. What the money that has been allocated to Ajaokuta Steel Company, have you seen any changes? Where does it go to?
No, after 1983, the government had actually been, the lip service to the project. But I'm happy with this present administration because this is the only administration since 1999 that actually brought this scandal of Ajaokuta at the first year of the administration. I'm talking about the executive and also the National Assembly. Unlike other administration, they will only bring up Ajaokuta issue when they are about to leave the offices. Okay, when they are about to leave offices, you see. And the move also by the Senate, because before things can be properly done, you really need to remove all the bottlenecks. There are a lot of money that have passed underwater.
Well, what are these bottlenecks?
Well, bottlenecks, first of all, we actually, now this is good that there is this allegation, or there is this move by the traditional council of the traditional council, because it actually will now make us also to focus on local politics. The eternal conspirators, because we used to talk about the external conspirators such as International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, that are bent actually, it is true, they are bent to make sure that Ajaokuta will never stand, because it is not just only for Nigeria alone, it's actually also for the African sub-regions. And Nigeria has a wide market for consumption of iron and steel. So what actually be happening is the fact that one government will come and will decide on concession, whereas other government will come and start all over again, and money will be spent. And money will be given out either for foreign consultants or for this company, for instance, this Global Holding Infrastructure Limited. And at the end of the day, what happened is the asset stripping of the plant, of both the one in Ajaokuta and also the one in Itakpe. Itakpe is iron ore mining complex, while that of Ajaokuta is the steel complex. So this has all been going up and down. But now that we actually started, one major theme also is the fact that there is no framework to regulate the sector. And that was why we came up with the Nigeria Metallurgical Industry Bill. Although it actually started with the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development. But when we found out that bill, that executive bill, does fail to reflect the developmental trust and focus of the metallurgical industry, and also if that bill is allowed to go, it will actually create a barrier to implementation of appropriate actions. And so we came up with a new bill, and that will be the executive bill was structured in such a way that we can actually have a legal framework that will regulate the entire metals sector. And also, part of what there are several workshops we have organized also in order to, bring to nation what actually is surrounding I told you about for the controversy, the confusion, and the conspirators. Yeah. Among us also, we have our own conspirators.
Yeah, you're talking about internal conspirators.
Yes.
Who are those ones?
Let me just tell you my personal experience. I attended a conference, and part of those participants there were actually World Bank consultants. There was that kind of hot argument concerning the technology. And I was just saying, I rose up because I'm a professor of extractive metallurgy. We are few in that sector in Nigeria. So I rose up and I was just saying, because the person was actually talking out of ignorance. But I know quite well that he's being sponsored by the World Bank to that conference. And so first of all, he has to take the interest of the sponsor than interest of the nation. You see, we have all of them. And these have been the hindrance, the barrier to the, to the execution.
No, Prof, what is the truth about the technology?
Oh.
Some people are saying that the technology in that Ajaokuta is already obsolete.
It's absolutely
and that the place is, a scrap, given today's realities in terms of technology.
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. The technology that actually envisaged for Ajaokuta is the same technology Chinese are using today. And if you Google worldsteel.org, you'll find out that globally, 70% of the steel production is through the same technology you're talking about. And in China alone, 90% of the steel they produce is the same technology that we are talking about. The blast furnace, oxygen, and rolling.
Okay. So it's shocking that we're still talking about Ajaokuta now in 2024.
Yes.
This was an Ajaokuta that, as at 1994, they said was 98% complete.
Yeah, correct.
That's 30 years ago.
Yes.
98% complete. But today, it's not still complete 30 years after. And I want to talk about the general steel industry. What are these factors that kill the steel industry? I had the privilege of staying in DSC, Ome Alaja, and I know quite a bit about the steel industry, And truth has to be said, that was how they killed DSC. That started in '83, did some good work, but as the '90s petered in, DSC was already long gone. And he went through that same gamut. Katsina Rolling Mill, same fate. So, Oshogbo, truth is, what destroyed the steel industry in this country? You keep talking about external factors, you don't want it, but is it that we don't see the potential in steel itself? Because this was supposed to be part of our industrial plan as a nation. That's one. Number two, she's a senator now. Natasha Akpoti had been very, very strong in her advocacy as regards, Ajaokuta. Part of the thing she had said before is that give it back to the Russians. Re-engage the Russians that know about the plan, that did it initially. That all this running around we are doing with all sorts of people, give it back to the Russians. In fact, there were conversations between Putin then and former leaders of Nigeria as regards this same Ajaokuta. Isn't it time for us to give it back to the Russians and ensure that we, stop this once and for all and churn out some steel?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And I agree with Senator Natasha in total. Because the first you asked about why we are still on the same topic about why Ajaokuta is not.
Yeah, Ajaokuta was said to be 98% complete in 1994. 30 years after.
Yes.
We're still here.
Let me tell you, the 98% actually, technically 98% completed. The only issue is the instrumentation and automation of the of the primary unit to produce the liquid steel. You talk about the Delta Steel Company at Alaja. Actually, that came as a diversion to Ajaokuta. Yeah. That ought not to have come out have an issue. But they brought it. The same conspirators we are talking about, they brought that to distract Nigeria. But by them, and they said they should strap, at that beginning, they should strap Ajaokuta off. But late General Murtala said no, they can't. The corporate has the money and we can have the tool plant.
But that ran for a while and afterwards DSC is a shadow of itself.
Exactly, because they were trying to show that, look, if we have the Alaja, there is no need of Ajaokuta. Because they know Ajaokuta, even that Alaja is 1/3 of Ajaokuta.
It's not that big, yeah.
And that Ajaokuta can take care of the steel that we needed, even special steel, because they were Alaja ought to be for special steel. But we are talking about the steel, the conventional steel that actually we use in day in and day out for our various infrastructure, for our buildings and all that. But that has been the case. If I'm a builder, my technology is actually the instrumentation and the automation. That is how material can be transported to wherever they are through, you sit down on a lab. That is the only thing that is left.
So why can't we do that?
That is the technology of Russia.
So why can't we get the Russians to put
that is the problem. That is the problem actually. If we allow the Russians to come in, and I bet you we'll get.
So why can't we get them to come?
We're rounding up. With due respect, there are many who disagree with you about the technology. The technology, the original technology, was modified then to accommodate gas, right? There's been some modification, but I ask you two things. The traditional rulers are opposing the probe. This same project will say there's been a lot of corruption, there's been a lot. Do you support the traditional rulers saying there should be no probe? And two, what's the way forward? Is this steel making, idea, is it really viable for Nigeria?
The move by the traditional rulers should be totally condemned.
Should be condemned?
Condemned, absolutely. Because actually maybe there is a little bit lack of knowledge here. Because I was just wondering, is it that easy for them to forget this incident that happened when their subjects were brutalized? Some of them were killed because they want to protect some of the equipment and materials from being stolen by this group of people, the global. The youth rallied around to ensure that this does not happen. But unfortunately, the global were having police and soldiers, and they brutalized the young ones. Some of them were killed. And I was just wondering, there is the same traditional ruler that are elders that are writing this kind of a petition. When things are not moving, look, the steel complex is not just for the locality, it's actually a national asset. And once again, it is not just for, I told you earlier on, it's just not for Nigeria alone, it's also to assist other African sub-region countries. Now, and you are bringing the, what actually is hidden? What is the skeleton and the cupboard that they are trying to prevent? I don't want to preempt their motive or maybe their any support from anywhere, but it is actually uncalled for. First, let's get the true state of what actually happened. Why should you pay those that actually strip you of your material, your weight, and at the same time again, you are saying that it should not probe what happened in between? You see, there's something behind
Prof, what's the way forward?
The way forward.
Steel making, is it still viable for Nigeria?
But I want to really, before I conclude, I just want to, this is the same thing we are talking about. The blast furnace technology is not obsolete. Every now and then, even what is happening now is that they are increasing the volume, the useful volume of the blast furnace from usually 2,000 that we have down to 5,500. Now, in the older days, it was 2 tons of coke to 1 tons of molten metal, that pig iron. But today, it's less than 1 ton, 0.3 tons for 1 ton of molten iron that you produce from the blast furnace. It is only if you want actually to have that develop, we should allow Ajaokuta to run. We should bring back to the Russian. Let them complete the project. Look, I was actually sponsored by the federal government in 1982 to study in Soviet Union. so that after my graduation, I come back and, work in Ajaokuta.
And over time, you became a professor. No. The Ajaokuta project is still there.
I came 1988. Although I was given a scholarship to further on a PhD, I said, no, let me come and show, let me show what I've actually learned. And I came by 1988, still there for 1 year. I found out that it's still the same thing. Nothing so I have to honor the scholarship again. And I came back, but further the passion that I have for it, I still went. I said, no, okay, let me train people that may take over from me. Getting older, there are others also I need to mentor. And that is what has been going on.
Prof, we want to thank you very much. We hope that in another 10 years' time, we won't be sitting here still discussing Ajaokuta Steel project.
No, I think the move of the Senate will actually open up what is hidden and the way forward. And I know I have that belief that they will do the right thing. They will really do the right thing and bring out water.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Esezobor, for joining us on the Monday Show.